Welcome back to JForrest English. I'm Jennifer, and today we're going to read a news article together so you can improve your English fluency by learning advanced expressions, advanced vocabulary, advanced grammar, and even correct pronunciation. Let's get started. First, I'll read the headline. Brazil to host COP30 climate summit in the Amazon in 2025. Here, notice Brazil to host. This is not the infinitive. This is actually a shortened form. The long form would be Brazil is going to host because they're talking about a future planned event. Brazil is going to host. Headlines of news articles frequently leave out words, auxiliary words, articles, simply to make the headline as short as possible. That's why they did this. Remember that we use the structure to be going to, and then we have our base verb. This is for planned future actions. For example, you could say, tonight I'm going to review more JForrest English lessons. I hope you're going to do this. If this is your plan, tonight, today, tomorrow, this afternoon, put that in the comments. I'm going to review more JForrest English lessons. So to be, our verb to be, going, and then to review, the infinitive or to plus base verb. Remember, your verb to be has to match your subject. So we could say tonight, where my friends and I, we're going to review more JForrest English lessons. Put that in the comments if that describes you. So Brazil is going to host. This is the Brazilian president. His name is Lula. The United Nations has chosen Brazil to host the International Climate Meeting, COP30, in the Amazonian city of Belém do Pará in 2020. I don't speak Portuguese, so my apologies if I pronounce this terribly. This is how an English speaker who doesn't speak Portuguese would pronounce this, Belém do Pará. Hopefully that's somewhat accurate. Amazonian. So Amazon is an area, Amazon, and then this is the description, Amazonian city. Italy, Italian. Amazon, Amazonian city. Also, let's talk about the pronunciation here because I hear a lot of mistakes with to choose. This is the base. So I always choose JForrest English videos. I always choose. I chose. This is the past simple. Notice the difference. Oo, oh. Choose, chose. If I had a choice, I would choose. So here, oi. Oo, oh, oi. And then we have I've chosen. Oh. So this is the same here for pronunciation. Don't worry, I'll move this in a second. I chose, I've chosen. Oh, oo, and then this is an oi. If I had a choice. Let me move this where you can see it. There you go. Has chosen Brazil. COP is the yearly United Nations Climate Change Conference. So now you know what that stands for. COP, Climate Change Conference. Yearly, this means once every year. There's another common term for yearly. You can say annual. So notice, yearly, annual. COP is the annual United Nations Climate Change Conference in which states discuss and agree on measures to deal with the environment. Notice that you agree on something. Or you can agree on doing something because on is a preposition, so you need your verb with ing. We agreed on hosting the COP in Brazil, for example. Now, I've summarized all these lesson notes in a free lesson PDF. You can look in the description for a link to download that. Let's continue. I've participated in COPs in Egypt, Paris, Copenhagen, and all people talk about is the Amazon. Notice how right here he used the present perfect. This is because it's an ongoing timeline. So he has participated in COPs in these different areas, but because it's an ongoing timeline, he can participate in more COPs in more cities or locations, and that will be added to the list. So we use the present perfect for an ongoing timeline. Ongoing timeline. For example, you could say, I've seen 3 episodes. Now, it's in the present perfect because this number is possible to increase it. If I ask you next week or next month, you might say, oh, I've seen 5 episodes. I've seen 8 episodes. Because of that, we use the present perfect. If the timeline is complete, so in the past, then you would use the past simple. For example, if you specify a past time reference. Last week, I saw 2 episodes. The week is over, so it's not possible for you to see more episodes, and that's why we use the past simple. Let's continue. So why not have the COP in the Amazon so people can get to know the Amazon, see its rivers, its forests, its fauna. Lula said in a video posted on Twitter. Remember, Lula is the president of Brazil. Let's talk about fauna. Fauna is more of a scientific term, and it describes wildlife or living things. Wildlife or living things. So if you visit a national park, they might have signs telling you about all the different fauna that you can see in that park, all the different wildlife or living things. Do you enjoy these lessons that I make learning English with news articles? If you do, then I know you'll love the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers on TV, movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English and add advanced vocabulary, expressions, grammar to your speech to help you become fluent and confident. And you'll have me as your personal coach, so you can look in the description for more information on how to become a member. Let's continue. The UN approved Brazil's bid to host COP30 on May 18th after Lula's request during last year's COP27 meeting in Egypt. So the conference is called COP, and then every year they have the conference, the number increases. So when they had it in Egypt, I believe last year, it was the 27th time they've had the conference. Remember, they're having COP30 in Brazil in 2025. So at that point, it will be the 30th time they've hosted this conference. Belém do Pará is a northern Brazilian city located in the fringes of the Amazon forest. Let's take a look here. The fringes of. This simply means the edge of, the edge of. The edge up. So you have the Amazon forest is here, but then the area of Belém do Pará is not in the Amazon. It's on the edge of the Amazon. So it's on the fringe of the Amazon. To be honest, I'm a little confused why the article used the preposition in. I think this is an error, a minor error, because the expression is on the fringe of, which means on the edge of. Now, generally we use in with locate when we're talking about a city, for example. I live in Ottawa. My city is located in Canada. So we do use the preposition in with locate, but this is an expression. The expression is on the fringe of. So you could say the area is on the fringe of the Amazon. Now, actually, this is an interesting expression because it describes me, because here's Ottawa, this city I live in, but actually I don't technically live in Ottawa. I live on the fringe of Ottawa because I live in a rural area very, very close to Ottawa. So I personally could say I live on the fringe of Ottawa. So notice, on the fringe of, this is our expression, on the fringe of. And it simply means on the edge of or on the perimeter of. It's the capital city of the state of Para, located on the coast. So notice, you don't always use locate in. You can use locate in a city, in a country, in an area, but on the coast, on the coast. On the coast of the Amazon River estuary. And if you're curious, an estuary is, if you look to the right of the screen, you'll see you have a river, and then there's a wider part of the river, and then you have the ocean. So an estuary is the wider part where a river meets the ocean. And before that takes place, you have an estuary. I wrote that definition here for you, and let's continue. Lula has promised to tackle Amazon deforestation and repair the damage to the Amazon caused by his predecessor. All right, here. First, let's take a look at the verb to tackle. Now, you tackle something. When you tackle something, it simply means that you accept to do something that is generally a challenge. So I need to tackle my taxes. So I'm accepting the responsibility of doing my taxes, but my taxes are challenging because I'm very unorganized. That doesn't describe me. I'm very organized, but that is just an example. So when you tackle something, you just accept responsibility to do it, but what you're doing is challenging. And of course, trying to repair the damage to the Amazon is a challenging task. I wrote the definition here for you. Now, deforestation. So we have the word forest, forestation, and then you add deforestation. Deforestation. You try. Deforestation. Deforestation is when the forest is lost because people cut down the trees and destroy the forest, basically. Now let's take a look at predecessor. Notice the pronunciation. Predecessor. Predecessor. You try. Predecessor. One's predecessor is the person who held a position before someone else. So in this case, Lula, the president of Brazil, Lula's predecessor is the person who was president before Lula. Unfortunately, I don't know who that person is. Someone from Brazil. Who was Lula's predecessor? You would know. The person in power before the current person. So a previous person in power in a specific position. It doesn't have to be a political position. It could be any position in a company as well. Let's continue. But Lula's government has come under fire. When someone or an organization, a team, a unit comes under fire, this is not a positive thing. It means that they're being criticized. So to be criticized, to come under fire, to be criticized. So of course, that means that someone is saying negative things about that person, that team, that unit. So in this case, it's Lula's government has come under fire, is being criticized. They simply put the expression to come under fire in the present perfect, but the expression is to come under fire. For seemingly, this is the reason why Lula's government has come under fire, is currently being criticized. For seemingly backtracking on his climate-related electoral promises in recent days. Electoral promises, this electoral simply means from the election. So promises made during the election. This would be the adjective to describe during the election, electoral promises. So promises made during the election. During the election. Those are the electoral promises. Now, when you backtrack on something, it means you state something. It could be an opinion. It could be a commitment to do something, and then you don't do that. So let's say my opinion is that everyone should drive electric vehicles. But then 3 weeks later, you see me doing an advertisement for a gas-powered vehicle. Well, I just backtracked on my statement or opinion that everyone should drive electric vehicles. So although he's promising to repair the damage to the forest, it seems like he isn't doing that. His actions aren't supporting that. Now, notice how they use the adverb here, seemingly. Seemingly is to cast some doubt on it. So they're saying, we're not sure if he's backtracking, but this is what we think right now. So used to express some doubt, some uncertainty. So they're not 100% positive that the government is backtracking, but right now their actions suggest they are. And that's why the government has come under fire, is being criticized. His administration helped Congress pass a draft law that strips the environment and Indigenous people ministries of some powers. When you strip someone of power or of responsibility, it means you take that power or you take that responsibility away from someone. And often it's because that someone abused the power in some way. So you could say the politician was stripped of his title because he was corrupt, for example, or stripped of his power because of abuse. In this case, that doesn't sound like why they're taking this power away, and that could be why the government has come under fire. And by stripping these Indigenous people ministries of this responsibility or power, they're weakening their oversight. When you have oversight over something, it means that you are responsible for that something. So if the Indigenous people say we have oversight of the Amazon, it means that they have responsibility for the Amazon. So to have responsibility for something, responsibility or authority, to have oversight of something. You can also use the preposition over, oversight of or oversight over the Amazon. So oversight of or over. And the demarcation of Indigenous lands in the Amazon. Demarcation is when you mark a border. So you identify the border of something, a specific area, and you do that so you know what is in the border and what is not in the border. So if you're building a new house, you would demark your property line. So you would demark the area that you own, and then anything outside of that area, well, it's saying that you don't own that. So demarcation of is just the marking of. You can think of it as that. The word in there is mark, to mark the border, demarcation of Indigenous lands. And I wrote the definition here for you. And that's the end of the article. So now what I'll do is I'll go to the top and I'll read the article from start to finish. And this time you can focus on my pronunciation. Brazil to host COP30 Climate Summit in the Amazon in 2025. The United Nations has chosen Brazil to host the International Climate Meeting, COP30, in the Amazonian city of Belém do Pará in 2025. COP is the yearly United Nations Climate Change Conference in which states discuss and agree on measures to deal with the environment. I've participated in COPs in Egypt, Paris, Copenhagen, and all people talk about is the Amazon. So why not have the COP in the Amazon so people can get to know the Amazon, see its rivers, its forests, its fauna? Lula said in a video posted on Twitter. The UN approved Brazil's bid to host COP30 on May 18th after Lula's request during last year's COP27 meeting in Egypt. Belém do Pará is a northern Brazilian city located in the fringes of the Amazon forest. It's the capital city of the state of Pará, located on the coast of the Amazon River estuary. Lula has promised to tackle Amazon deforestation and repair the damage to the Amazon caused by his predecessor. But Lula's government has come under fire for seemingly backtracking on its climate-related electoral promises in recent days. His administration helped Congress pass a draft law that strips the environment and indigenous people ministries of some powers, weakening their oversight of environmental protections and the demarcation of indigenous lands in the Amazon. So do you like learning English with the news? If you do, then make sure you subscribe because I post lessons like this every single week. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can download it from my website right here or look in the description for the link. And why don't you get started with your next lesson right now?